Hi, hello. Welcome to the Windspear, everyone. I see there are already so many people here watching. Thank you so much for being here. So, you've joined me for a funny, silly a bit, but also informative talk about the French horn, the best instrument, according to me. So before we get going, I want to say a very, very big thank you to the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. They're live from stage to screen, sponsored by ATB Wealth. So thank you so much, Edmonton Symphony and ATB Wealth. I also want to thank the Windspear Center. Isn't it beautiful? Look in the background. It's gorgeous. Thank you to the Windspear Center for letting me be here on stage to do this presentation. Thank you to the National Arts Center for their Canada Performs grant. That grant is sponsored by Facebook, Slight Music, the RBC Foundation, and Sirius XM Canada. So many partners making this super cool French horn presentation possible for you lucky French horn listeners. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I am Megan. There's a picture of me coming up on my first slide from my dark, dancey past. I was born in Vancouver. I went to McGill University in Montreal, and I moved to Edmonton to play in the orchestra here. So I've been here in Edmonton for 12 years now, 11, 12 years, and it's my happiest home. So we're going to start this presentation with a little music. Let's hear that horn. I'm playing Reverie by Alexander Glazunov, yeah, I think you're going to like it. Because of social distancing, we have no piano player, so I'm just going to use a recorded piano part and play along with that. So here it goes, Reverie. It is sort of weird to like play for like silence afterwards, but I know you're clapping at home, so much appreciated. So let's talk horn. Let's talk horn. Horn history time. So from the very throughout all time, you can always kind of make a horn. Horns can be made out of carved wood, seashells, hollowed out animal horns. Any tube can be a horn. So, you make a sound on a horn by like buzzing with your lips, like this. So you kind of fart a bit into the tube and you get this beautiful horn sound. So that was very long time ago horns. Now, if you look at the next slide, this is a hunting horn from the 1600s. Modern horns, like the one I have, were born from hunting horns like this one. It's a very long tube made of metal, and it's sort of been coiled up like this so that people who played it could take it on horseback and play it for the hunt. So they called across the fields to say, oh, here are the dogs, or look, there's some foxes, or I don't know how to hunt, so that's all I know about that. But they had big horns that were long and low and smaller horns that were higher, and so you could play a whole bunch of different things on these horns. So these hunting horns didn't just stay in the fields forever. Composers of that time started to get kind of interested in this kind of cool hunting color. And from 1700 to like the 1850s, you can see big names here, right? Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms. These composers actually wrote, not for this fancy horn that I'm holding now, but for that natural horn we saw a second ago. So it was kind of a cool compositional tool for them too, because, the people of the time, when they heard a horn, they thought of the outdoors and a call. So if you wrote a symphony and you put a horn sound into it, people listening at the time would be like, the outdoors. And it kind of evokes this like rustic or outdoorsy feeling. So it was a nice compositional tool for the composers of those times anyways. So what they did was you got a tube that was the right length for the key of the symphony that you're going to play, and then they just threw a horn call in there. So I'm going to play for you an example. This is from Beethoven's Third Symphony, and it's I don't know if it's a real hunting call, but it's like a hunting call, and I'm going to play it on a natural horn. So I'm just going to make one length of tube, and I'm just going to play it. So Beethoven's Third Symphony, a cool hunting call. Yeah. Could you tell I wasn't cheating? You could see I wasn't like pressing any buttons or doing anything. So maybe some of you who are watching are brass players, but maybe some of you aren't. But I'm changing those notes by just changing my lip tension. So, a low note is like, and then a high note is like that. So, I don't know. It's just a skill that you develop when you're a horn player. So, my first question that I'm going to answer, frequently asked question, we're going to pause the horn history to answer this burning question that everybody always asks me. Well, kids ask me, and grown-ups are too embarrassed. Why do you stick your hand in there? Okay, why? So it's kind of a neat thing. So remember that natural horn, it's got no valves, and I can kind of only play really those notes that I played for you before in that Beethoven example. It skips a bunch of notes. So composers and horn players, natural horn players, kind of wanted to get a couple more notes, play a few more melodies in there. So they put their hand in the bell and use their hand to slightly change the length of the tube to get some extra notes. So I'm going to play an example for you. This is from Mozart Horn Concerto No. 2, third movement, although I'm going to play it really slow. And I'm going to use my hand to get a couple extra notes. So I'll turn so you can see in my bell. I'm going to do like this. Also, no cheating. You can watch. Make sure I'm not cheating. So, we can play a couple notes on that length of tube. We can play. And so if we add one extra one, we can play. And this one. That's all you need. You can play any melody with those notes. So there you go. Nowadays, since we don't use the natural horn, we use the valve horn. We don't need to do this to change notes. We can change notes with our valves. But it's kind of convenient, right, to hold your horn like this rather than this. So horns are made to put your horn or hand in them now. So we have to. That's just how it is. That's what my teacher told me anyways. So I'm still paused in my horn history story here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some technical things about the horn. So, okay. So, I was talking about tubes and length of tubes and different horns. So, when you're talking about the fundamental or the fundamental frequency, so things resonate or vibrate at a certain frequency, right? And a frequency translates to a pitch. I don't know if you've heard this before, but they say, oh, that's tuned to A440. What's 440? 440 is the frequency of the note A. So if you've got a horn and it's got air inside it, when you vibrate the air inside that horn, it vibrates at a particular frequency, which is the note that you hear. So the fundamental frequency is the lowest note that you can get on a length of tube or a string or whatever is vibrating. That's the fundamental frequency. Now the overtones, I have my next diagram will help you explain the overtones. So if my tube is like 6 feet long and there's one vibration that goes the length of the whole tube, that pitch, that frequency of that vibration would be my fundamental frequency. Now, the waves can be divided in 1/2, in 1/3, in 1/4, et cetera, to infinity, to however many waves going through the length of that tube. It's like kind of math, and I'm just a musician, so bear with me here, but hopefully you're following what I'm saying. So if you look at that picture, using your lips, you can choose which wave pattern you want to sound on that instrument, and that's what creates the overtone series. So fascinating. I know you must be excited because I am excited. So we're going to come back to that later, but one thing that you need to take note of is as we go up with the fractions, they get closer and closer together. It's a very important part of the harmonic series. Let's go back to the history of the horn. So around the 1850s, like I said, after the natural horn composers, horn players kind of got tired of carrying around all these different horns. They've got their D horn and their A horn and their G horn, and they got to bring these horns everywhere. Plus, composers were like, hey, it would be cool. This instrument sounds great. We need it to play more notes. So the valve horn was invented. So, the way the valve horn works, I'm sure this is fascinating to all of you because it's so fascinating to me, is when you press down a valve, it adds a length of tube to your horn. So say my horn is 6 feet long, and then I press down this button, and it adds an extra 1/2 foot, and then I'm in a different key. My fundamental frequency is different. It's lower the longer the tube gets. So valves, this is how valves work. If you take a look here at my slide, you've got piston valves where you press down a button and it adds a length of tube. And then you've got rotor valves where that little inside section turns to add a length of tube. Now, the adjectives describing those two types of valves, very subjective. Those are my adjectives. But, piston valves, trumpet players, some tubas, take them or leave them. But rotary valves, cool, right? I know, subjective information, but you can take that to the bank. So, with this, the modern horn was born, like my horn, and that's kind of where we are now, from 1850 to today. So the next question, very tricky, but for you, I'm going to answer it for you. I get asked this a lot. Why is it called a French horn? Why is it called a French horn? Is it French? I don't know. So normally when people ask me this question, I just like kind of change the topic. I'm like, look over there, because I don't know the answer. But for you today, because of this special presentation, I did many, many minutes of extensive internet research and truly came to the conclusion that we don't definitively know why it's called a French horn. It is kind of interesting, though. The instrument was developed in Germany, and in other languages other than English, they don't call it a French horn, they just call it a horn. So only in, North America and other English-speaking countries do they call it a French horn. So that's kind of silly. And in fact, the International Horn Society released this shocking press release in the 70s saying definitively that the name of this instrument shall be called the horn. So there you go. It's actually called the horn, not the French horn. And if you call it the horn from now on, horn players will be so impressed with you. So, ta-da, answered. Next question. My favorite question of all the questions. I like this question because it makes me feel a bit cool because, yeah, I play a hard instrument. But, I do actually get asked this, oh, I hear that's a really hard instrument. And maybe people don't know why, that it's considered a harder instrument. So the next slide is sort of like an image that I feel like describes the life of a horn player to you. So on the left there is me trying to, master the horn. And on the right there, that's my roommate trying to avoid the sounds of the French horn from time to time. So, I'm totally, obviously I'm being really silly, but every instrument is challenging to master. Every instrument has its own challenges and difficulties. But there is one thing that makes the horn unique from other instruments, and that's because, to boil it down, it's easy to miss notes on the horn. It's easier to miss notes on the horn than on other instruments. If you play the cello or the violin or the clarinet or the flute, and you practice really hard, you probably won't miss a note in your music you practiced. But if you're a horn player and you practice really hard, the same amount of practicing, and you get to your moment, there's a small chance that things will go wrong for you. And that's for all horn players, all professionals. The next image will help you to really understand what I'm talking about here. So this next image is, if you've ever tried to play a piano, this is what it feels like a bit to play the horn. So near the bottom here, you're like, oh, this is nice, playing some chords. But as you go up, the notes are getting smaller and smaller, and you're trying to get them, and the chances you're going to hit 2 notes at once, you might. So that is sort of a visualization of what it feels like to play the horn. So let's look at that next slide of the harmonic series. So I was talking to you earlier, the fundamental frequency, the harmonic series. So note number 1 there at the bottom, that's the fundamental. That note is so low, I cannot even play it. No horn player can play it. It's the lowest possible note. So I'm going to start at fundamental, at the harmonic series number 2, play up to number 16 for you. And you will see what happens as I go up the series, and the wave gets divided as I go up. Okay, so that's all on the same length of tube, the D horn. And you heard it kind of starts with like some big notes, some big intervals. 5th, 4th, then some thirds, then some seconds, then some semitones. It gets closer and closer, and then to the end, I'm just playing like a chromatic scale, all on the same length of tube. So, all these like notes get closer and closer together as I go up. Maybe you're asking, now I don't know, but you could be asking, what makes a horn harder maybe than another brass instrument? It's the same principle, right? You're like vibrating a column of air inside a tube. Well, do you remember I said that first fundamental frequency in that harmonic series there, we can't play it, it's too low? Why can't we play it? Well, the horn, if you uncoil all of its tubes, is 18 feet long. 18 feet! The tuba, the lowest brass instrument, is only 16 feet. The tuba can play the fundamental frequency, and that's because the tuba's mouthpiece is very, very large, so they can get a larger wave and a bigger buzz to play the fundamental frequency of their note. The French horn, the tube is skinny and the mouthpiece is really tiny, but the tube is very long. So the fundamental frequency wave is not possible. So we cannot play that note, which means we start our area of playing, say our range, above the fundamental frequency, which means we are that much closer to the notes that are super close together than other brass players like tuba, trumpet, trombone, like that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm going to, in the next slide, I'm going to explain the sad truth to you. So now we know on the same fingering, on that D horn fingering, I can play all those chromatic notes all the way up to the top there. So I can play a lot of notes on one fingering, but I can also play a lot of fingerings on one note. That is to say, I can play a lot of different lengths of tube and I'll get the same note. So the D horn, that first example, the middle numbers there are the valve combination I use to get that length of horn, 1 and 2. The 16th harmonic, that top note that I played for you. I'll play it again. Okay, on the E flat horn, the 15th harmonic, E horn, second valve, 14th harmonic, D flat horn, 2 and 3, C horn, 1 and 3, 18th harmonic, really high, B flat horn. Okay, so what does this all mean? It means any length of horn, you can play almost any note. So on any note, you can play in almost any fingering, and almost any fingering can get you any note. So when I say it's easy to miss a note, I'm telling you, it's easy to miss a note. So that is the rough life that us horn players have to deal with. But I got to tell you, you know, being one of the most beautiful instruments as well as a difficult instrument, it's worth the pain. So there'll be time for you to ask some more questions about that later if you want to, but I'm going to move on to some horn special effects. So I'm going to play for you a tiny excerpt from Canadian composer Denis Goujon's piece called Jupiter. So this piece has some really neat stuff in it. It's got stopped horn, which is when I close the horn like that and makes kind of a buzzy sound, flutter tongue, and I'm going to play into this piano. So I'm going to get that set up now. First, I have to open the piano. You need that. And then I'm going to push down the damper pedal of the piano so that my sound vibrates the strings of the piano. This is what we do in the time of social distancing to keep ourselves amused. Okie dokie. Cool, huh? So that's Jupiter. Some neat effects in there. It's only the first few bars because I don't have a piano player, so I can't play the rest of it for you, but the whole piece is great. And I love it. So maybe you haven't heard a lot of contemporary music, and especially maybe for solo horn, because why would you, unless you're a horn player? But the next piece I'm going to play for you is pretty different. This is Peter Maxwell Davies' Sea Eagle for solo horn. Now, I'm guessing you haven't had the opportunity to listen to a lot of solo horn music. I play this on my master's recital at McGill University, and I'm very happy to get to bring it back. Solo piece is perfect for social distancing because I don't need anything but this beautiful room. So the thing about modern music or contemporary music is, not everybody necessarily understands or appreciates it, but to me, I really love it. And I love all modern art, dance, paintings, because I feel like it can evoke an emotion that is surprising to you. So when you look at modern art, sometimes it can make you feel things that classical art can't. So, there's a melody, there isn't a melody. You can get a bit of a different view on this type of music. So this piece, Sea Eagle, is about a majestic bird, an eagle that lives by the ocean. And Peter Maxwell Davies really can evoke the feeling of, first of all, I would say the stillness of the outdoors, and then kind of the images of a bird doing what birds do. So maybe flapping up into the sky with these like leaping upward melodies, maybe diving down to catch some fish, maybe just like looking with its head in a bird-like way. But all of these things are really, you get the feeling of it in this music. So I think you're going to really like it. I recommend that you try to create your own imagery when you listen and let it lead you where it will. It is about 5 minutes long, and I think it is really, really cool, and I think that you will really enjoy it. Just gotta get my horn ready. Okay. Thank you, thank you. So, Sea Eagle, I hope you like that. I think it's a great piece. I think it's a really great piece. It's fun to play, super hard and virtuosic, but really rewarding. So, now it's time to play a game. Just what you've been waiting for, a game. So I'm going to play for you 5 pieces that are from the pop culture, I would say, TV, movies, and video games. And you have to guess. So I'm going to start easy and get harder. So why don't you just write in if you know the answer, and I'll tell you all the answers at the end, so that you know if you were right, although I think you'll know. So the first one, I'm not going to give you any hints at all because I know you'll know it. Hang on here. We've got a water issue. Ugh, I'm still so pumped from that Sea Eagle piece. Just feeling it. You know, when you have 18 feet of tube, it gets a little complicated. I can't find it. Yeah. It's another thing that makes horn players so mysterious. Well, I guess we're not going to find it. It's just in there. It's just there. There. Found it. Okay, game. First one. You will like this, I promise. So good, right? That's such a good one. Okay, so that was the first one. Next one, I'll give you a tiny hint. It's from 2009. Tiny hint from a movie. Good, right? Oh, I love it. It's so fun. Did you know it? Did you know it? Okay, so that's 2. The next one might be tricky for you, depending on what kind of person you are, but if you know it, gosh, you're just going to get really excited. So... play that one loud, right? Okay, that's 3. Okay, man, this next one, if anybody gets this one, if anybody messages in and gets this one, I'm going to be so very impressed. This one was a new one to me, too, when I was scouring the internet. And it's so beautiful, and I'm really excited about it, so I'm going to play it for you now. Great, huh? So, did you know it? Okay, here's the last one. This is the 5th one. From 2010, that's your hint. A movie in 2010. Yes, okay. That one's fun too. It's nice to play a bit loud. Okay, did you guess? Did you guess? Okay, I'm going to tell you now. So, the first one, I'm sure most, all of you got that from Star Wars, Princess Leia's theme, John Williams. Good job. The second one, Star Trek Reboot 2009. That one was like really special for me. I remember going to that movie because I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I went to that movie and that horn theme came up. I was like, oh, I can't wait to play that in the orchestra. And we do. We really do. And it's so good. So that was the second one. Third one, Uncharted, Nate's theme. So if you ever played Uncharted 1, 2, or 3, that's your like opening credit theme, and it's played on like 4 horns, and it's so glorious. I just used to like let it run and listen because it's so good. I love it. Okay, so that was 3. Now, number 4, the one I said that was super tricky, I'm sure none of you got it. I'm gonna like check back to find out, but that is from The Mandalorian, and that's Baby Yoda's theme. Baby Yoda's theme. I was so excited when I found it. So that track is called When Jawas Attack. And so if you go back now and watch The Mandalorian, you could be like, ah, horn moment, and just enjoy it with me. And the last one was How to Train Your Dragon, the flying theme from How to Train Your Dragon. So glorious. So, great job, everybody, for playing the game. I love music from the 1700s to 1850, as well as contemporary music like Sea Eagle I played for you. And I love this type of music too from the movies and even the video games. It's all a joy for me. So I hope you enjoyed that too. Now, I have one more piece to play for you, Nocturno by Franz Strauss. It's about 5 minutes long. I'm going to use my phantom pianist again. And if you have questions that you want to know, that you want to type in at this moment, I will try to answer them after this piece. So go ahead, type in your questions if you haven't already, and I will play this piece for you, which is so beautiful and you will love. And then I will answer them. Oh. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Are we going to read some questions or 3 questions? Okay, let's hear a question.
Is that a Wessex?
You're asking if my horn is a Wessex? No, actually. This is a brand new horn that I just bought a year ago, made by Felix Cantashanu, who actually lives here in Edmonton. It's a local horn maker, but he's quite well known in North America. So Felix Cantashanu, that's his name. You can find him on Facebook.
What theme or film do you love to play the most, no matter how many times it pops up?
Okay, I don't know if you heard that question. What do I love to play? Theme or film that I love to play the most, no matter how often it pops up. I like a lot of the Pops concerts. I love the Star Wars concerts that we play all the time. There's some stuff that we hardly get to play that I really enjoy. It's funny, there's this like John Williams piece called The Cowboys, and it's got this really cool theme. Whenever we play it, it's like way less often than the Star Wars. It's like once every 5 years or something like that, and I just love it. I love the Star Trek things. I like the space ones. The space ones. That's my answer. Final answer, space ones. Okay, another one?
If you could learn another instrument, which one would you pick?
Which other instrument would I pick? I would probably choose the cello or the viola. I like the register of the horn, kind of like a tenor register. You know, you're an inner voice a lot. And I like that kind of supporting role. So I enjoy being the inner voice. So actually maybe viola. I choose viola. Yay. Any more questions?
How long have you been playing the horn for?
I have been playing the horn. I started when I was 12. So I didn't play before high school, and we didn't have middle school. So I just went to high school and got the horn, and yeah.
How long do you practice a day?
How long do I practice a day? So that really depends on what kind of day it is. If I don't have anything else to do horn related, I try to practice minimum 45 minutes, like minimum my warm up, and like good day, you know, my warm up plus another 2 sessions of an hour, 45 minutes or an hour. So not as much as I practiced when I was a student, but still a significant amount for a brass player. So, one more question, or we got it? Okay, so that's it. I have a bunch of thank yous that I want to say. Thank you to you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is my first ever fancy live stream like this, and I really, this is a pet project of mine I love to do. I love to talk about the horn, so thank you to you so much for tuning in. I also want to thank ATB Wealth for sponsoring this Live at the Winspear from Stage to Screen. They've been great sponsors of ours, and we really appreciate it. I would like to thank my people here who have helped me out, Alan, Warren, Jonas, and Constantine, who did the lights and the sound and the feed and the questions. It was a pretty big job to set it all up, so I really appreciate them. Thank you so much to the National Arts Centre Canada Performs grant. It got me going on this, and I'm so happy to have done it. The sponsors for that Canada Performs grants are, the National Arts Centre, Facebook, Slight Music, RBC Foundation, and Sirius XM Canada. So the last thing I want to say before I let you guys go is, you know, this sort of health crisis that we've been going through has been really difficult for a lot of organizations. Many companies and businesses are suffering this crisis. And, you know, orchestras are no exception to the difficulties that we've been facing. We haven't done a concert in months. And so if you have the means, I would really love it if you would consider donating to the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra or to whatever your local orchestra is from wherever you're listening to. All orchestras are struggling right now, and we really appreciate you. So there should be a donate button, a link to donate button there to donate to the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.